Good morning, everybody. Another day, another set of results from Sunday Creek. Southern Cross just keeps on delivering. This prolific deposit has delivered again at Apollo. This time we're reporting two holes, 119 and 119W1, which stands for Wedge 1. I'll explain a bit about that in a moment. So this hole was drilled from the east to the west. It started in mineralisation 200 metres east. We had some little indications out that way. We had a trench hundreds of metres above us, and we've had a few little hits, but this zone out at Apollo East is now a bona fide new discovery 200 metres east of the core zone at Apollo. And that hit three veins out there and some very high grades that we're now seeing as we're starting to understand that Apollo East new discovery. So that included 1.4 meters at 20 grams gold equivalent, for example, within three of those veins. The hole then continued on down to infill a gap that was a quarter of a kilometer, 260 meters in space between holes above and below. So we had a big gap there, and then we hit again. We hit 7 more vein sets on the way down, which included some very nice numbers, 11.5 at 6 grams, which included 4.7, 11.7 grams gold equivalent, for example. But there were many more hits, and you'll see those results flashing, no doubt, in the front of the screen from the edit of this video. The hole also was important because it demonstrated continuity of that 260 meter spacing, but also we had to drill a small wedge hole. So we came off and deviated off the parent hole, which was 119, and deviated, just skimmed off it for 119W1. And that was because there was some core lost in the parent hole, a couple of meters, and we had to re-drill to make sure there was no mineralisation in that lost piece. As it turned out, there was no mineralisation in that lost piece, but that wedge hole fortuitously acted as a twin hole, essentially drilling about 0.6 meters away from the parent hole. So it was the first time we could look and see if there was continuity between the parent hole and the wedge hole. And what you always want to see is continuity at the different scales. So we infilled the 260 meters, but then we only stepped off 0.6 meters, and we saw fantastic continuity of both the wedge hole and the parent hole in terms of widths, in terms of higher grades. Those higher grades were repeated in the same spot. So a very good test at that scale also. So this is an important hole. It's confirmed mineralisation 200 metres east of Apollo. Apollo is part of a 1 kilometre core zone at least, so we're extending the mineralisation east. We're infilling at depth. Apollo's getting better at depth, and we're seeing that with some of the high grades up to 35 grams here. So a real workhorse hole, a couple of holes, I'd say, in terms of just continuing to build the project. This information now leads us to drill more in this area without a doubt. So Apollo East now needs a lot more drilling. We've demonstrated that discovery there, the system continuing 200 meters east. So there's a lot more drill holes to drill into that area, and we've already started that. Apollo Deeps keeps on getting better as these epizonal systems tend to get better at depth, and there's a lot more drilling required there as we've demonstrated continuity at depth. So we have a dedicated rig out at Apollo achieving those aims. The core drill area keeps on expanding, so we have mineralisation from essentially Christina now right to Apollo East, which is about 1.2 kilometres. We're drilling now with 4 rigs today. Next week, we'll be bringing the 5th rig, and that means that we'll have a couple of rigs between Christina and Golden Dyke extending that area. We've got a rig in Rising Sun, or 2 rigs, I should say, in Rising Sun, and that 1 rig at Apollo. The 6th rig will come to site later this year around September, October, and that rig will be dedicated to testing that further east expansion from Apollo East, and we know that system continues. The same geology with gold continues for 10 kilometres. So we'll start with incremental step outs going further east with that additional rig. We have 60 kilometres planned over the next year. We've got something like 55 or 6 kilometres into this system now, so we're going to more than double the metres, which will be a huge step, not an incremental step, a huge step in pulling together confidence in what we know even more, extending the volume or expanding the volume into those areas I was just talking about, and focusing on the very highest grade parts of this system. We have one of the drill rigs at Rising Sun is navvy drilling, which is another way, a more sophisticated way of wedging, if you like, with a downhole motor, drilling out high grade panels within 15 to 20 meter spacing around other high grade holes at uber high grades, plus hundreds of grams holes, to try and demonstrate the continuity at that scale also. So many ways to build this project, many drill rigs on the project. Stay tuned. There's a hell of a lot more coming from Southern Cross Gold. There's always news flow from Southern Cross. 4 rigs today, 5 rigs within a week, 60 kilometres planned over the next year. 9 drill holes are currently being processed and analysed at the laboratory, and 4 holes in progress. So always that news flow, always that multifaceted approach on where we're drilling, focusing on those core aims that we need to demonstrate volume, grade and scale. For those of you in Australia, we will be presenting Southern Cross and attending with Nick Mead, our Corporate Development Manager, and Boyd Peters, our IR specialist, and myself at the Noosa Mining Investor Conference from the 17th to the 19th of July. And then we're going across west to Diggers and Dealers between the 5th and 7th of August. We've also got road shows globally, so institutional investors in London, New York and Toronto should look for us coming through those cities in late July. So lots happening, lots of news to tell our current shareholders and to talk to new and interested shareholders. Stay tuned.